What's the cheapest thing you have here? Obviously, you. What can I get you? Drunk? Welcome to episode 11 of Behind Bars, Cocked Tales, and Wasted Nights. I'm your host, Greg. I've been working as a bartender for over 20 years, and over those years, I've seen a lot. My goal here is to share some of those high and low lights with you. Quick warning, this podcast contains sex, drugs, and some language that isn't suitable for anyone under 21 years of age, so you gotta have some ID. And the first one to get a drink today is Kissy DJ, who left me a great 5-star review. If you want to get served first, please don't hesitate to do the same. So, before we get started, you'll need a drink. This one comes from JP Smith, aka the Libation Liaison, from his spot Obstacle Number 1, all the way in Holland, Michigan. This is his creation, which means it's going to be esoteric beyond your ability to make and a fucking absolute slayer of all but your last taste bud. He deliberately spares you that one for the taste of victory you'll have when you polish it off. You'll also have to go to Holland, Michigan to experience it. Seriously, I lived with this dude in Aspen, and our place was plastered with plaques and littered with trophies he'd won in cocktail competitions. On top of this, he's a former Cirque du Soleil performer who does all the Tom Cruise and cocktail shit except better. I mean, he legit juggles those baton pin things in the living room while he watches Dexter. Anyways, here it is. I give you the In Spite of Ourselves, a tribute to John Prine, R.I.P. Godspeed, listeners. In a mixing tin, which he already wants to kill me for because he uses those tiny crystal pitcher things so you can see the action. Add 2 ounces of James Pepper 1776 rye, a half ounce of Madeira, a quarter ounce of coffee stout syrup, 2 dashes of cranberry orange bitters, and 1 dash of Angostura. Stir that sucker. Serve that up in a Nick and Nora. Don't worry, we're not done. You have to bring it in for a landing with not 4, not 6, but 5 drops of cinnamon tobacco oil. Like you do. Okay, let's recover and move forward. I'd like to preface this episode with something. I debated long and hard over sharing this one with you, as it is, close to 16 years after the fact, still emotionally tough for me. It took me years to stop thinking about it on a daily basis, and the sting is still there in the here and now as I dredge this shit up. But, as you may have noticed in listening to previous episodes, I am often predisposed to say, fuck it. Okay, on with the story. I was slinging at Dimples, the karaoke bar in Burbank. Now, because of its location on Olive and Riverside, the bar is nestled smack dab in the middle of all the studios and other show-busy institutions. ABC, NBC, Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal, Central Casting, and a smattering of independent production houses and casting offices. Because of our location, and the fact that karaoke attracts the attention-seeking, countrywide prom king and queen transplants who move west to pimp their good looks and remaining to be seen, quote, talent, Taylor Lautner, to the biz, those casting offices send agents to troll the bar for wannabe stars to appear in their low-level shows. Basically vultures circling wounded baby wildebeests trying to make it to a watering hole. Not unlike the photographer who will do the hot girls' headshots for, quote, free. The recruits would come into the bar and target their quarry and get them all tangled up in reality shows for MTV and other networks. Once, a hard-up casting agent actually approached me to be on Blind Date. I respectfully declined because A, there was no way I was broadcasting what I thought was my good game with girls to that audience for free, and B, those dates were 8-hour odysseys that were not only set up to make you hate each other, they issued manhood challenges in hopes of humiliating you. And they sometimes involved horseback riding, and after what happened to Superman, there was no way I was doing anything equestrian-related. However, when casting agents from To Tell the Truth came in and asked me if I'd like to try to win some money by lying to a panel of judges and an audience who thought their payment was getting to see a live show and not realizing they were the ones actually working for the production itself, I was all ears. To Tell the Truth was an old show from the 50s where a panel of celebrities would ask questions to 3 contestants about their interesting jobs, and the goal was to snow them so they couldn't determine who was an imposter and who was the definite article. At the end of the round, the host would ask the line made infamous by Eminem, "Will the real whoever please stand up?" And the contestant who had the unique job would reveal themselves by standing before the panelists, studio, and television audiences. All I had to do was bullshit people? I'm pretty much bad at most everything, so faking it till I make it is a survival skill that's definitely in my repertoire. So, I agreed. Next thing I knew, I was in a casting office fielding questions about myself, trying to answer in a hilarious and interesting manner, and after hearing my shtick, they said, yep, I would be a contestant. I signed my releases and showed up at the studio for my 11 a.m. call time. I was given a hemp shirt with an O2 emblem on it and met 2 other dudes who looked like me wearing the same thing. We were corralled into makeup, then funneled backstage and given the rundown by a stressed-out stage manager wearing a headset, half telling us our roles, half talking into her mic. The real Slim Shady in this game was a bartender at Woody Harrelson's Oxygen Bar on Sunset. This is a place you would go after getting hammered on the strip to eat raw food and buy 20-minute oxygen treatments in hopes you wouldn't suffer for your excesses in the morning. The 2 of us were to impersonate this guy and trick the panelists and audience. 30 seconds later, we were walked from behind the set's background to seats at lecterns under hot, bright stage lights in front of a packed circus, whose ringleader in this reboot was John O'Hurley, who you may remember as Elaine's boss, Jay Peterman from Seinfeld. I looked to the celebrity panel. It was Meshach Taylor, Dave Coulier, and the highly underrated Paula Poundstone. I mean, just listen to her on NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and I defy you to not be in awe of her improvisational acumen. But I digress. I immediately compartmentalized my adrenaline rush, my fear, teeth-chattering, heart-pounding, starstruck state, and tried to get into a character who slung oxygen and not booze to drunks. It was Woody Harrelson's joint. It was oxygen. It was a hemp shirt. I took a deep breath and leaned back in my chair in my best stoned Matthew McConaughey, because that's the kind of vibe I got from the real guy. Like, I felt that in order to work there, you had to test positive for cannabis. The announcer finished the celebrity intros and passed the torch to John O'Hurley. He laid out that one of us sold oxygen treatments at a bar in Hollywood, and the questions began. Dave Coulier did a quick Bullwinkle impersonation, then asked, "Number 3, how many seats are at your bar?" Shit, I was number 3. I couldn't hesitate. 12 at the bar, 24 on the floor, I said with brazen confidence. Dave did a frown nod, completely buying it. All my panic went away, and now I was going to completely play with them. They fired more questions at us, and 1 and 2 handled their business, and I was on fucking point. By round 2, the panelists were wearing nasal cannulas and breathing actual oxygen treatments, all flavored and enriched with some health bullshit. Meshach Taylor zeroed in on me. "Number 3, what am I breathing right now?" "Well, Meshach," I began, "that's our most popular mixture, containing saw palmetto berry harvested from the Tibetan rainforest." I winced internally, thinking I went too far with the Tibet thing. Was there even a rainforest there? Fuck. Idiot. But the panelists all did those, interesting frown nods, indicating I got nothing but net. More questions I can't remember were fired at us until we finally reached the time limit. There were 4 votes, the panelists and the studio audience majority, which was tabulated by voting devices wired to their seats. Paula picked first, number 1. Then Meshach and Dave put in their votes. Each voted for number 3. Then the audience votes came in. 76%, number 3. Holy fuck, I got 3 out of 4 possible votes. I couldn't believe that they believed me. We won. All votes were for imposters. My head was swimming. It took everything I had to hide my shit-eating grin. Then it was time for the fun. John O'Hurley asked the question we'd all been waiting for. "Will the real O2 bartender please stand up?" Now, if you've seen the show, this is where the contestants take turns fake standing, almost standing, sitting back down, and doing it again until the real Slim Shady stands up, and we fucking milked it, and when number 2 stood up, we were free. Everyone was shocked. Dave Coulier made a comment that my laissez-faire reclined position had him fooled at the top of the game, and that was the last thing I remembered before high-fiving my co-conspirators, getting a check for $1,600, and promising to get beers with the guys I'd never see again. I walked with my feet 10 feet off of Beale all the way back to my shitty Cavalier and drove to work. America. Fuck yeah. This proved to be the worst thing that could have happened to me, in that now I had the firm belief I could ace any game show. A while later, another casting team from a game show, which were now called reality shows, came into Dimples, and they asked if I'd be interested in competing. Duh. I was all in. This one was a little different. Instead of an old show reboot broadcast on local affiliate stations across the country, this was a brand new primetime NBC show that would hit all the O&Os and be on everyone's boob tube, and the stakes were higher. $25,000 high. It was called Dog Eat Dog, hosted by the gorgeous Brooke Burns, and was a combination of physical challenges and trivia. I went into the offices, filled out all the paperwork that made me sound funny and sane. They gotta make sure you're not a disturbed stalker, especially with hot female contestants and a bombshell host in your orbit. The requisite 2 years had passed since my last game show appearance. You can't be, quote, on the circuit. That way viewers don't recognize you from a previous appearance. And I just had to pass a physical and sign a waiver saying I wouldn't sue if I got hurt. If I got hurt? What were these physical challenges? I would soon find out. The show was scheduled to shoot in 2 months. This was network shit. I was in a panic. I immediately transformed into Ellen Burstyn's character from Requiem for a Dream. I got my teeth whitened, joined a gym, and even waxed my back 2 days before shooting in case there was a pool involved. Oh, how right I would be. Yes, I waxed my back. Unfortunately, I'm half English and half Italian, and I got the short end of the cultural sticks and ended up pasty and hairy. But I digress. Anyhoozlebees. All my hard work at the gym and testosterone shot into my ass paid off, as 2 months later I found myself at a defunct summer camp with my competition performing physical challenges that included running an obstacle course and climbing a series of 2x4s attached to swinging cables. I nailed it. Then we were all sat in the camp's theater in the round and given a rapid-fire trivia round, which I also aced. The point of all this was so we could each assess each other's strengths and weaknesses. The rub was that some of us could be faking it, so when game time hit, we might issue a challenge to someone we believe would fail but would instead ace it to our surprise. My strategy was to wear my skills on my sleeve so no one would fuck with me. Besides, since I crushed to tell the truth, to me it was a foregone conclusion I'd be walking away $25,000 richer. But anyways. See, the whole object of the game was that we 5 contestants would be given a topic or stunt and assign that topic or stunt to someone we thought would blow it. This could be a trivial or a physical challenge. This was based on what we learned about each other that day at the camp. The contestant who got the most votes to take a challenge would have to perform the stunt or answer the question, and if they failed, they went to the dog pound. If they won, they'd get to pick one of the assholes who voted for them to do it in the first place. This would repeat until 4 contestants were in the dog pound and 1 man was left standing. I know, it's confusing as fuck, which is why the show didn't last. One girl had to do states and capitals while riding a mechanical bull over a pool 50 feet in the air. Another had to throw footballs through a tire and strip off an article of clothing with every miss, making the choice to go full Monty or not. You know, that kind of ratings-grabbing bullshit. I think in Phase 1 I answered one question that the majority of contestants voted for me to do, because, like I said, I made a strong showing at the camp so no one fucked with me. I got it right, and used my vote to send that girl to the mechanical bull. This was dangerous, because I was perceived as a threat, and if she successfully performed the challenge, she could vote me into the dog pound. If you're in the dog pound, you're now competing for $5,000 instead of $25,000, because of the 4-way split. She failed her states and capitals miserably, and I was still alive for $25,000. I stayed alive until it was just me and this guy Terrence left. We were competing for the last man standing when we were given our challenge. And our challenge was to take place in a fucking swimming pool. Fuck my life. Yeah, I worked out super hard, but when I was born, God gave me the legs of a chicken, and I was super uncomfortable being in swim trunks on national television. You can ask anyone I know, and they'll tell you they've never seen me in shorts. How am I able to get naked for doing it purposes, you ask? Simple. Dim lights and laying down tend to conceal and mitigate this curse. What's more is that I was a bartender who usually woke up at the crack of noon and kept the blinds shut till my in time, so I was fucking whiter than Lestat. The whole situation was immediately fucking with my confidence. The gauntlet was thrown. We were to jump into the fucking cold-ass fucking water, be given a trivia question, then dive down 10 feet to a glass table on the pool's floor and pick up handled tiles, heavy enough to stay sunk and even heavier at depth, until we found the one with the right answer, racing each other back up and not breathing as long as we could. There was a cameraman in scuba gear to catch all the skinny-legged, wavy-haired, puffy-cheeked mania going on under the surface. I know this podcast is all about honesty, but I'm too embarrassed to mention the shit I got wrong. Okay, never mind. I kinda have to at this point. Here we go. I couldn't find green when they asked what color Granny Smith apples were. I couldn't find Menudo when I dove down after they asked what Ricky Martin's former boy band was. And I was so bewildered and shocked I was losing at this point, I couldn't find the tile that answered what 20% of 50 was. Some bartender I am, obviously not good on tip math. I'm pretty sure you can YouTube this embarrassing shit. I was beside myself, and the cameras captured all of it. There I was, with my Austin Powers chest hair drenched and water dripping down my pale body, being told I failed by an uber-hot girl a foot taller than me and being sent off to the dog pound like some impotent beta male in front of America. Fuck, this still haunts me to this day. I was taken backstage and dried off and re-emerged into the dog pound. Oh well, at least I could still walk away with $5,000, which was nothing to sneeze at for having to reveal my lack of calves on national television. Fucking Terrence. Now it was time for the showdown. Terrence would be given trivia categories and assign them to members of the dog pound he surmised would not know the answers. He handed John, the first guy into the pound, science. He based this on the notion that John was an uneducated bro. Turns out,